Hello, everyone. This is episode 1 of Wrestling with Green Pinstripes podcast. And in this episode, I'll be reviewing NXT TakeOver WarGames. So here is a spoiler warning. If you did not watch NXT TakeOver WarGames, go to the WWE Network right now and watch NXT TakeOver WarGames. And I gotta say, wow, what a finish. But let's start at the beginning first. NXT TakeOver started out with Lars Sullivan versus Cassius Ohno in a opener match. It was decent, and it wasn't exactly too special. I had expectations that Lars Sullivan was going to win, and of course, I always give the nickname that it's a monster truck rally because, for one, a lot of Lars Sullivan matches have been like monster truck rallies, and two, when Mauro Ranallo calls the matches of Lars Sullivan, it is like he is announcing a monster truck rally. But I mean, like, it was a decent match to start the opener. Yeah, I mean, like, it wasn't that great. It was just alright. But the next match was Aleister Black versus Velveteen Dream, and that was an excellent match. I gotta say, Velveteen Dream is definitely making a name for himself. He used to be known as Patrick Clark in Tough Enough back in 2015 when he was a contestant over there. And ever since then, he joined NXT and eventually repackaged himself as Velveteen Dream. Prior to this match, I always thought he was just another Orlando Jordan clone, but he is Velveteen Dream. But at the end, Velveteen Dream faded to black as Aleister Black wins the match. And I thought that was, as I said before, I thought that was pretty good. The next match was the Fatal 4-Way for the NXT Women's Championship that was vacated by Asuka back in September or October. I'm not exactly sure when because it has been a long time since I have seen when Asuka vacated the title. But I would say that the match itself was pretty good between Peyton Royce, Mae Young Classic winner Kairi Sane, Ember Moon, and Nikki Cross. And I would say all four of them have proved to be solid. And I gotta say, the post-Asuka era of the women's division in NXT is pretty encouraging. I know a lot of people on my Twitter feed were rooting for Peyton Royce to win her first title, but at the end, it happens to be Ember Moon. And what I found really cool at the end of the match was that Asuka presented her the women's championship, and they both embraced, and it was pretty much a tearful moment for both of them because Asuka was literally passing the torch to Ember Moon, pretty much saying good luck. So it's hard to see what's going to happen going forward, what's going to happen with Peyton Royce, Nikki Cross, and Kairi Sane. I got a feeling that Kairi Sane will be fine. I'm not sure about Peyton Royce. I've heard rumors that she could be called up to the main roster with Billie Kay, but it's really hard to tell what's going on. As for Nikki Cross, she's going to be with Sanity for quite some time, so as long as Sanity remains together, I don't see Nikki Cross getting called up to the main roster just yet. But I could be wrong. Something could happen by Survivor Series or Raw or SmackDown. Something could happen, so I could be wrong. The next match was Drew McIntyre versus Andrade Cien Almas, and that match was pretty decent. I mean, like it had his back and forth moments, and I gotta say that Zelina Vega, who's best known as Thea Trinidad in the independent circuit, and of course Austin Aries' girlfriend, she definitely shined in her moments, and she made her height an advantage instead of a disadvantage because she was able to sneak attack Drew McIntyre twice. Keep in mind that Zelina Vega is 4'11 and Drew McIntyre is 6'5, so there is a major height difference, and she used her height difference to sneak attack him, and it ended up being successful as Andrade Cien Almas scored a major upset victory to become the new NXT champion. The final match itself was WarGames, and I gotta say, it definitely lived up to the hype. I know the first few minutes of the match, it was Roderick Strong, Adam Cole, and Eric Young were the ones to start out, so it was like a triple threat to start the match, and then I believe Adam Cole's allies, Bobby Fish and Kyle O'Reilly, joined in, and then Authors of Pain, and then Sanity joined in much later. And when Sanity joined in, everything turned up a notch to 11, because there were tables, there were chairs, there were kendo sticks, and even chains. So it was an all-out mayhem. And I gotta say, it was organized chaos. And I gotta give respect to all those men who performed in that match, because they sacrificed their bodies on the line to make sure that we enjoy the pay-per-view, or as others would say, a WWE Network special, because it's not officially a pay-per-view. And it was definitely an amazing ending to that to TakeOver. And I mean, like the undercard was solid, not great. I would if I were to compare the undercard to NXT TakeOver Brooklyn 3, I would say the Brooklyn 3 undercard was a lot better, but NXT TakeOver WarGames undercard was pretty good. But the match, the WarGames match itself, was extremely chaos in a good way. Chaos in a good way, not in a bad way. It's definitely something that people are going to be talking about tomorrow and throughout all of Thanksgiving. I could see Thanksgiving conversations where wrestling fans in the families talking about WarGames. I could definitely see that happening. All right, now it's time to see if there are any Twitter questions. And but if I did see some notable tweets that did caught my attention while I was excuse me, while I was recording the podcast. So let's see what we got here. All right, so from Miranda Eva KH. There is no winner in that match, just a survivor. I definitely agree with that. There is definitely no winner in that match, just a survivor, because everybody else was pretty much putting their entire bodies on the line. And Adam Cole wasn't really just a winner. He pretty much was the survivor of that match. He pretty much pulled it off for Undisputed Era. I still don't know why they call themselves Undisputed Era, and they have the acronym CFO, because in WWE there is a music producer called CFO with the $, so CFOs. So I don't get why Adam Cole, Kyle O'Reilly, and Bobby Fish would have the acronym CFO. I guess Cole, Fish, and O'Reilly, but it's still pretty silly to me. Alright, and this next comment from Cage Side Seat says, they died for our entertainment, but we were thoroughly sports entertained. I see what you did there. That's a pretty interesting pun. Yes, they did put their bodies on the line just to make sure that we are entertained. I definitely agree with that. And this next tweet is from Inner Nerd. It's the spelling is capital N and number 3 RD. So, in other words, it's iwnerd.com. It's hat off to all 9 men inside the ring. Put their bodies on the line. Yeah, I would say yeah. I definitely give them props to put everything on the line for that. And now we're here for a question from Real Blue Easy. Only question I have is, why have Andrade Cien and Almas win the title? I thought that Drew McIntyre was going to feud with Adam Cole for the belt. guess they're going a different route. Yeah, that's a pretty good question. Why they give Andrade Cien Almas the belt. I do think that they might be going in a different direction. I'm not sure what's going to happen with Drew McIntyre, but I got a feeling he's going to have a rematch probably in the next NXT TakeOver in Philly when it's close to Royal Rumble weekend. I could be wrong, and he might get called up to the main roster, probably Raw or SmackDown, but I don't know what's really going to happen at the moment, so it's really hard to tell. And yeah, that was pretty crazy when Andrade Cien Almas all of a sudden became the NXT champion, because earlier this year he's pretty much an afterthought, but then once Zelina Vega joined in, then he was pretty much rising from irrelevancy to now NXT champion. So it definitely was surprising. And as for Adam Cole, maybe he'll get a shot at the NXT championship sometime down the road. I don't see that happening in the near future. Maybe it could happen when there's a face champion. It's hard to say who's going to beat Andrade Cien Almas for the NXT championship, because Drew McIntyre could win it back, but there could also be another opportunity for somebody to win it. Who knows? It could be Roderick Strong that could be the next NXT champion. So it's really hard to tell. Excuse me. All right, and one tweet that really stood out was from Lucky Kid in 92. NXT TakeOver WarGames was amazing. Great matches, great storytelling. Best matches were Velveteen Dream versus Aleister Black and WarGames. But I like WarGames better. It was classic. Survivor Series, good luck topping that. Yeah, I would say that Survivor Series does have a lot to work with, but when it came down to the hype of the Survivor Series pay-per-view, the fans went from not caring to all of a sudden caring, and it was all because there were so many changes that happened before the Survivor Series pay-per-view. So the one major change was definitely Jinder Mahal losing the WWE Championship to AJ Styles. So that's definitely a major change that most people got excited for. And I gotta be frank here. The past week when both Raw, SmackDown, and NXT were giving their go-home shows to promote their respective events that were happening this weekend, I actually thought that SmackDown gave a better go-home show week because it felt intense. It felt like you want to watch that pay-per-view. Whereas Raw, they were promoting an episode for next week, and same goes with NXT. Raw and NXT were not bad, they just played it safe. I was like, that's not the point of a go-home show. The point of the go-home show is to promote the pay-per-view. You gotta promote the pay-per-view. That's how you do it. And, I gotta say that SmackDown definitely gave the better go-home show week. But as for tomorrow for Survivor Series, is it gonna be bad? I don't know. Maybe it could be a good pay-per-view, but I do expect some disappointment, because there's gonna be people that you don't like who are going to win. And the people that you like, you do like, they might surprise you. And I got a comment that just came in right now. It says, NXT WarGames was insane tonight, but I like the original WarGames from the old WCW. It came in from Riano86. Just as I was recording the podcast, it just came in. NXT WarGames was insane tonight, but I cannot speak for the WarGames from old WCW, because I watched wrestling in 2000, and I was watching the WWF more than WCW, so it's really hard to say, but I did watch a few clips from the old WarGames of WCW, and yeah, there were definitely a lot more compelling to watch than the one in NXT. But the NXT WarGames wasn't that bad. I thought that was pretty good. It's just It's just a little bit different because it's a different era. WCW was the 80s and 90s era with the Jim Crockett, NWA, WCW, Ted Turner, and NXT is pretty much a sub brand of WWE, which is pretty much managed by Triple H. Here's how I compare the main roster in NXT. I compare NXT to the New York Rangers and the main roster to the New York Knicks. Mainly because the main roster is mostly controlled by Vince. I mean, Vince does control NXT, but he's pretty much hands off with NXT, and it's Triple H that's running the show. Excuse me for my voice. I was screaming a little bit during the NXT TakeOver WarGames match a few times, so excuse me if my voice is going out. So, yeah, I thought that NXT WarGames was pretty good. As for the overall grade, I am going to give it an A minus. A minus because the undercard, it did not really click that well to me. I mean, like I did like seeing Ember Moon winning the NXT Women's Championship. That was a pretty cool moment, and seeing Aleister Black beat up Velveteen Dream, that was also pretty good. But undercard itself, it didn't really click with me. But the main event match, I gotta say that that main event was fitting of the bill. So I'm going to give War Games an A minus. Tell me what you think in the comments below. You could send me a tweet, or you could like. And if you don't like NXT Takeover War Games, then you don't like it. Everybody has an opinion. All right, the next podcast will be the Survivor Series review, so stay tuned for that, and I'll see you around. Take care, everyone.